what did you think of Mike Gundy's comments during Big 12 Media Day? I think some of you saw this already, but I bet far more of you didn't. I think it's worth playing. So it's about 40 seconds. We normally shy away from the longer sound bites. This is worth it, and I'm going to tell you why it's worth it. Because I guarantee you, if you haven't heard this yet, knowing our audience like I do, a vast majority of you, about 20 or 30 seconds into this thing, are going to be nodding your head so violently and just saying, thank you. You'll probably miss the final 10 seconds. So, Colin, let's roll it. This is Mike Gundy at Big 12 Media Days.
The geographical locations of conferences and traditions of college football are gone. And more so now than they were 2 weeks ago, right? We see that. So you adapt and change and deal with it, or you get out of the game if you don't think you like it. If you're old school, I'm a little old school, but I can adjust and make changes based on it's not going to go away. This is a big business now. When conference alignment started a year ago, or whenever it started jumping, there was a lot of people that were unhappy. But those people aren't the ones that are making the decisions at the top. And so the ones making the decisions at the top are going to decide the future and the history of college football, not us.
Yeah, so that's what Mike Gundy said. What did you think about that? I heard it, and then I played it again, and then I played it a third time because he's right, and you could tell he's been mad about this, but he was very measured in a public setting. But he almost seemed exhausted when he was saying it, didn't he? It was almost like he's just repeating what he sat around the dinner table or around a chalk talk session with buddies or fellow coaches, and he said 1,000,000 times already. It just becomes so pointless to try and relitigate it because, like he just said, you realize I'm not in charge. Sometimes you get to feeling like your voice really doesn't matter. Now, what Mike Gundy spelled out was there was tradition, and there were certain threads woven into our sport that could not remain as the texture of college football if big business truly wanted to take it over. And the way I look at it, it's not an apples to apples, but the way I always looked at it, the way I've always explained it to you guys, my simple mind always thought about college football as a natural preserve, a nature preserve. Right in the middle of downtown Nashville, we had a nature preserve. And we all knew as we drove by that nature preserve that if true market forces that run things like Major League Baseball or the NBA, if we really allowed this sport to ever operate on the same level as those sports, the nature preserve would be wiped out and destroyed immediately. If we allowed that nature preserve to operate under the same city code that everything around it operated under, they'd plow it down in 2 seconds and build a high-rise on it. Because that's what surrounds it. So what would stop that from looking the same way? What stops it is a group of people saying, no, we like this patch of land over here. We are going to agree as a civil society, as a collection of people, a community, to treat this one patch over here different. College football was that for a long time. It turns out we were always on borrowed time. Now, I know if you talk to, your 75-year-old great uncle, he would tell you this happened a long, long, long time ago. And yes, there's always been change in college football. There's always been upheaval. There's never been a 30 years fixed period in our sport where everything looked the same. I understand that. But I think we can all agree there have been far more violent earth-tilting changes happening kind of congruent with each other over the past 3 or 4 years. Feels like the past 3 or 4 months, really. A lot of it's really ramped up than we've seen at any period. I mean, there's been more permanent change in this sport in the past few years than there were the past couple of decades. We just changed. If you think about it, we changed some cosmetic things about the sport over the last 15 years, a lot more so than foundational. We're changing the foundation now. There's, like Mike Gundy said, no going back on some of this stuff. The nature preserve was finally looked at by the folks who built the rest of the city, and they looked at it and said, you know how much that land's worth? If we cultivate it the right way, if we develop it the right way, you know how much that land's worth? And so here we sit, you and me, like Fern Gully, the college football edition, just hoping our trees get saved, and here come the bulldozers. And I think we all remember how Fern Gully ended. I don't want to recount it. I don't want to cry on air. That's not why I'm here tonight. I'm just here to tell you what Mike Gundy said was true. Okay, so it really probably does not do much good for us to chain ourselves to the trees. They're coming down. They don't really care about us. Michael Jackson. But what I will say moving forward is there's going to be a college football. There's going to be a very attractive product. There's going to be a really fun product. It just may take some getting used to. But what Mike Gundy doesn't know, that I don't know, that you don't know, that Greg Sankey doesn't know. He's going to speak in Atlanta tomorrow morning at SEC Media Days. I doubt he even knows what the future looks like because everybody's still walking through the fog. The tornado's still in progress. We can't do a damage assessment. We don't know. But there's a lot that used to be cyclical that's now just permanent. I really wonder if we could just hit the fast forward button, if we could take a peek 10 years down the road and everything presumably is settled, how enjoyable is the product? Because I think there are two very different routes we could take. Like if this thing's managed correctly, there's no doubt we're going to lose some stuff we love. If it's managed correctly, it still could be a wildly entertaining, wildly fun product to watch. Just a different looking product. But there's another route we could take where you basically strip away everything that was attractive about it. And you take out all the local mom and pops and chain restaurants come in and take over. And I know we're hitting on a lot of other socioeconomic themes here, but that's the way it is. Bruce Hornsby. That's the way it is. How many artists can I shout out in one ad-lib segment? Let's just see. The point is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to feel when I don't fully know how I feel. That's about as real as I can be with you. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I know I love the sport. I know it's been my favorite forever, and I hope always will be my favorite forever. I haven't been any happier than some of you have been. I've heard some other folks. Yeah, I listened to Joel Klatt the other day talk about how he loves where we're headed. He thought it was necessary. He thinks that in time, everyone who loves college football will come to appreciate it. I'm man enough to say I hope he's right. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope he's right. I have my doubts, but man, I appreciate the optimism. I'm happy to share the optimism, but mine's a little more guarded, I would say. So I just wanted to play that from Mike Gundy.